Well, my guest tonight is a familiar face to viewers of Breakfast TV. Nelson Aspen was part of the Sunrise Revolution that saw the Channel 7 breakfast show become Australia's number one. As the showbiz reporter in the US, we came to love his style, his observations, and his inside scoops. Now, Nelson is releasing the final book in the Dancing Between the Raindrops series. Let's find out more about it from the man himself. Nelson, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Thank you, mate. It's great to be here. Regardless of whatever time of day it is in Australia, it's always a pleasure to beam in.
Oh, well, we love you, mate. And obviously, you and I go way back. I was in your ear from time to time when you were on Sunrise, and you were always a pleasure to work with. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with you.
I'm very grateful to be back with you, mate.
Now, you're joining us from New York tonight, and obviously, we've been talking about it in the show. There's a lot going on in America at the moment. What is the sense for Americans about what's going on, especially in Minnesota, and the unrest the nation is feeling?
It's like nothing I've seen in my lifetime, and my lifetime is quite substantial. Every day it gets a little more substantial. But the division is quite worrisome and upsetting and fraught with everybody being on edge. Being here in New York City, we have a new mayor, Mayor Mamdani. That was very controversial. So we're sort of learning how to dance with each other politically, what you can and cannot say, whether that's in person, on social media, or just around the family dinner table. And that's also an interesting dynamic for me as a broadcast journalist, because now I primarily report to GB News in the United Kingdom. And the people on whom I'm reporting are political figures, which really, between you and I, is not much different than reporting on celebrities. They're colorful, larger-than-life characters.
It is a pivot to go from being the showbiz guy to being the politics guy.
Well, it's not more of a pivot than it went from my being an aerobics instructor to the stars to being a morning show personality as well. And I would contend, as I talk about in my Dancing Between the Raindrops books, I've had a very strange career arc because I always say yes to everything. It doesn't matter what opportunity came along, I would take it. And when Sunrise called me, I was working on a British morning show in much the same capacity. But it was when it wasn't your voice in my ear, it was another voice in my ear the day I was reporting on Farrah Fawcett's death. And Dougie Walters was in my ear yelling at me, "Stop talking about Farrah Fawcett. Michael Jackson has just died." And I was not, we didn't have phones in our hands then. It wasn't something I could confirm. And we all know of another Australian famous story about a reporter who incorrectly reported a celebrity death. So I was not about to say Michael Jackson had died until I had my own confirmation. But that was a pivot.
Although if there's one person you can trust, Dougie Walters, his real name, David Walters, but Dougie Walters is someone you can trust in your ear.
It's true, but they were wheeling in because we didn't have the internet in our hands back then. They were wheeling in televisions with closed captioning so that I could keep up on everything. And I stayed on the air with Mel and Nat for 7 hours. That was a bladder buster, but it was also a career turning point. Just as with Heath Ledger, when Heath Ledger passed away, they got me to New York, and I stood in front of his house in Soho, freezing for 4 or 5 days. I was not ready for the climate change, and then I can't. Now I'm back in New York. But those were the pivotal moments that take you from doing the light and fluffy gossip stuff to really having to earn your chops as a reporter.
What was it like working on Sunrise all those years? It really was the time when it was becoming a revolution and changing the face of Australian breakfast television. You were there on the show before I worked on it. What was it like during that growth period?
It was an amazing experience. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. It launched so many other opportunities for me. I'm now releasing my 12th book this year. I mean, that's crazy. But it started by just being silly and fun and very American, which I didn't have to try hard. I was silly and fun and American. All of a sudden, there were other silly, fun Americans popping up on other shows because they were trying to duplicate what Sunrise had so successfully done. And that all boils down to chemistry. My last trip to Australia was
silly. you had you came across with the actual facts. It wasn't just la la la, I'm here giving you goss. It actually had a credibility factor to it. I know you did aerobics to the stars, but you took the job seriously.
100%. I've taken every job. I no more seriously than being the aerobics instructor, which got me to be the aerobics instructor for Princess Diana. I take every job seriously. I take this communication seriously.
Yes.
I've never been. You can't do live television and be 3 seconds late. You can be 3 hours early. So guess what? I'm always 3 hours early. That's just my work ethic from my Depression era parents. But it's about saying yes to everything. It's about being responsible, showing up on time. I was writing my own segments for Sunrise. It was long
Yes.
before some producer said, "Oh, this is the Instagram story we want to do today." There was no TMZ. I was responsible for all of my own content. Plus, we had the chemistry, I'd argue my best chemistry of all the presenters I worked with over the 19 and a half years of Sunrise. I call her to this day my satellite sister, Melissa Doyle. She and I had a connection that the audience saw, that the other presenters saw, and was unstoppable. So even when Mel was gone, and I remained for an additional however many years, people associated me with Mel. And that's what a wonderful gift to be associated with Mel.
Yeah, and you still have a friendship when you come out, you see her. I know that. No, you two are very,
We
very
just had
close.
Christmas together. Yeah, we
Yeah,
just
that's
had Christmas together.
right.
She's amazing, and she deserves every bit of success she's had post Sunrise.
She certainly does. Look, let me take you back, though, to your very first appearance on Sunrise. Have a look at this.
Well, the countdown is on for the 75th Academy Awards, and our Nicole is just one of many stars working out what to wear.
But there's a problem. The threat of war means the event may need to be delayed. Nelson Aspen is in Hollywood for us this morning. Welcome to Sunrise, Nelson. Now, word has come through yesterday. The Oscar organisers have cancelled the red carpet.
Yeah, there are a lot of journalists, myself included, who are shedding salty tears about this. You know, this is like canceling Christmas for us. No red carpet arrivals. They're going to sort of bring all the celebrities in the back way. And now we're all just waiting as the deadline that President Bush has given Saddam Hussein rapidly approaches. We're waiting to find out, as things rapidly change, whether or not there will even be an Oscar ceremony on Sunday.
Look at that handsome young man. Hey, Fonzie.
That hair. I wore that jacket on my last day of Sunrise. I resurrected that black leather jacket. I did indeed. And I don't know if you know Seven producer by the name of Natalie Bonjolo from Perth. I gave her that jacket, and now her son is proudly wearing that leather jacket. He occasionally sends me pictures of him wearing that jacket. So yeah, it's crazy. And it was 2 or 3 appearances on Sunrise before I figured out that Kashi was the man and Mel was the woman, because I had no return vision. I was just staring into a camera, and they said, they're Kashi and Mel. So I figured Mel was short for Melvin, and Kashi was probably had a little heart over the eye, and that was for the woman.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I didn't know the difference.
That is so funny. You know, you just mentioned how you used to produce your own segments. Now, they literally are just looking at Instagram, TMZ. The entertainment reports, they just don't have the depth. They're boring now.
Yeah, I'm happy to do politics. It's more of a challenge because, you know, now, and especially, and it's not just particular to Sunrise, it's everywhere. And I don't, that's another thing. I don't see Australian television. I don't live in Australia. I don't see Australian television. I never did. People would say, "Oh, what do you think of that other channel?" I'm like, I don't see it. All I see are the 10 minutes before me and after me. That's all I see. But I understand the need for short attention span audiences and visual. That's all they want. So the entertainment segment becomes, and it's all old news anyway. You've already know it before you've tuned into the show. What the real news is.
I disagree with you. I think there is an appetite for it, as long as you're not serving up the crap we've already seen. You know, you need to be current. It needs to not have been produced hours ago. You know, I think you delivered that. So I miss it, and I miss what you do. But you said you've done 12 books now, which is just amazing. I know you've done Titanic and all this other stuff, but your latest series is Dancing Between the Raindrops. You've had a series of books. How much, there's the 3 of them there. We're on to the last one now, but How much of your real story is in these books?
In that first edition, the subtitle is based on actual events I can still remember. And that's basically the truth. Because when I was asked, oh, you've had such a fascinating life. You've interviewed everybody. You've been everywhere. You've done everything. Write your autobiography. And I said, the problem with that is you have to be 100% accurate. And I can't ensure that I would get all of those details correct. So I followed in the footsteps of my mentor, Jackie Collins, and I fictionalized it with tons of sex, almost as much sex as I actually had. And I decided I would create my counterpart and tell all the stories. Of course, I had to do a few name changes of other characters as well, but I think you'll have a good time, especially with the third book, the newest one that's just come out, which is Dancing Between the Raindrops, Happily Ever After, ? Because that
Yeah, and it's a very deliberate question mark.
Yes, it is, because the last several years of my life, for me, Nelson, has been a happily ever after, but it's not without controversy. I lost my parents and my brother. I lost my job at Sunrise. I moved. We had COVID. There's been a lot going on, and you can read each book individually and still enjoy them. But book one is basically my salad days in the 80s New York. The second book, 20 years in Los Angeles. And the third book is after I relocated back to New York City and saw the end of my regular broadcast career and family loss as well. And I got married. There's been a lot going on.
There certainly has. Look, the television industry has been going through budget cuts and budget cuts and budget cuts. How hard was it when you got the word that you wouldn't be continuing with Sunrise?
Well, I mean, that was not my first loss of a job. You know, sometimes I remember in a previous job, they came one day to take the plants out of the green room, and I thought, this doesn't bode well. If they can't even rent the plants anymore, something's going to happen. And you know what? It's just not within me to ever leave a job. It would never occur to me. Why would you leave a steady gig? But the writing was on the wall, things were changing, and I've had so many wonderful mentors over the years, and as one of my very important mentors, a daytime actress named Mary Stewart, the first actor on the first televised soap opera. She was on for 35 years until that show was canceled. Not many people can say they've had a 35-year career in television, but she told me that's showbiz. And it doesn't matter if it's news or literature or whatever. You can get through a lot with those two words to console you. That's showbiz.
Well, it's interesting because I seem to remember there was a point where it looked like it was coming and there were rumors of it. And I actually did a post saying, I hope this isn't true, because I personally felt you were a big part of Sunrise and the audience had a connection to you. And it seemed like they were always dangling with this idea, but they knew the audience backlash. But when it finally happened, I have a feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, you had to play that game, excuse me, you had to play that game of moving on and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel disingenuous to the audience when you have to do that?
No, because the TV game, and I don't have to tell you this, over the course of the years, and I worked under 3 executive producers, Adam Boland, Michael Pell, Sarah Stinson. And over the years, I mean, the game is sometimes you just have to tinker with it in an effort to keep it fresh. They tried to replace me with Nuala Hefner. I made a list. James Tobin, Julia Morris, Fifi Box, Eddie Bartholomew. At various times, they tried different configurations. And in defense of the executive producers, that's what you do to keep a show interesting and fresh and lively.
No, there's evolution, and then there's just throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
And I kept coming back. There would be times where I'd be on 5 times a day, and then there'd be other times where I was on twice a week. And it was an evolution, as you say. However, that's showbiz. And I needed to be loyal to the audience who was so loyal to me. I had to give them as much time as I would be allowed to give them. I was not going to just disappear. That would be just not the way I am. I've always, since the old days when you'd have to email, remember the Roswell? When you'd have
Yes.
to email in to people. I replied to everything. Then social media came along and it made it a lot easier. But I was just, as I said, I was just back in Sydney for Christmas with Melissa, and it's nice, even though I've lost my hair, everywhere I went, people remember Sunrise so fondly. And even kids, young people will say, oh, I grew up watching you, or my mom loved watching you. And a lot of the men will say, yeah, my wife and daughter love watching you. They don't want to admit they watch it too.
That's right. And they did. What was your favorite interview or some of your favorite celebrities you spoke to?
Well, I have to say, I was very proud of my interviews. I would say 99% of them went smoothly, went interestingly. I won the International Media Award after being nominated 5 times by the Publicists Guild because of those interviews and the way celebrities and their representatives trusted me. I could make everybody look good and seem interesting, oftentimes more interesting than they actually were. But I was a responsible guy, and I could make it fun and informative. So that said, I've always liked the older stars because they know the game. They don't give a hit. They just don't care. They have nothing to lose by telling you the truth. So give me a Clint Eastwood or Robert De Niro, a Meryl Streep, a Julie Andrews. And because of Kashi's love, which everyone knew about, his love for Julie Andrews, I loved that I got to interview her 8 times to the point of where she told her representatives, if we're doing Australia, I want to talk to Nelson. And she and I developed a marvelous kinship to the point of she had me up to her apartment here in New York City to do an interview ostensibly over an afternoon tea, and to be served tea by Julie Andrews was a unforgettable moment.
Doesn't get much better than that. Well, you can order Nelson's books through Amazon. Just search for Dancing Between the Raindrops or go to his website for more details, nelsonaspen.com. Nelson, you are a legend. I love you. Thanks for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
I love you back anytime.
McKnight Tonight.